Greetings, ladies and gentlefish. First off, before we get into the actual gaming, or the games in question, apologies for there being a lack of videos lately. I was, as many, it appears many YouTubers in the UK were, struck down by a terrible bout of man flu, which is a horrendous condition to those who have never suffered through it, of course. Thankfully, due to my wizard, pirate, ninja, white blood cells, I appear to be making a recovery. So, here we go again with some videos. Today's video is going to be a pair of subscriber replays, both featuring the IS-8 Tier 9 Soviet heavy tank. I say heavy tank, you can see this one's bombing it along at 50 kilometers an hour. I don't have the IS-8 yet, I am at the IS-3. So I'm kind of interested to see how this machine plays out. Just very quickly going to change my settings to colorblind mode for anyone who's colorblind out there. So, first off, we have Tanker3069 in his IS-8. Top tier. I mean, I say top tier, it's not the best matchmaking you can actually get in this tank. You know, a good half of each team, or close as damn it, are actually tier 9. But nonetheless, top tier is nice, in his IS-8, obviously. Here on El Haluf. Both of these games are going to be on sandy maps, the sort of desert maps. And hopefully you enjoy them. Now, so far, the only thing you've really seen of the IS-8 is that it can do a very healthy turn of speed. As you can see, Tanker was bombing it along at 50 kilometers an hour, which means that this thing can kind of get into positions that you'd usually... Hello, Mr. IS-3. Ooh, set him on fire. One automatic fire extinguisher used. You can get into positions that would usually be associated more with medium tanks. Ooh, I'd have taken that shot a little bit sooner myself and just taken the chance that it might have gone in. Now, a lot of people don't like this tank because, I mean, I think because the armor's a bit, I mean, when you come from the IS-3, the IS-3's frontal armor is decent, but when it starts meeting higher penetration guns, the value of that frontal pike nose really starts dropping off. And the thickness of the IS-8's armor isn't that much more, with kind of comparable angling, I think. So I guess that's why people don't really like it as a heavy tank, but as kind of this heavy medium sort of hybrid, I think it looks like quite an interesting machine. Again, just caveat, I haven't played it, so maybe I'll hate it, who knows. I'm nowhere near this yet. Now, so far, Tanker has managed to put one shot into an IS-3. There's a Centurion Mark 7. Nice, only slightly higher than average damage roll. The IS-8 gets... Ooh, takes a shot there. Although, thankfully, it looks like the AMX was using the 90mm gun. The IS-8 gets this 122mm gun that appears on a number of the higher-tier Soviet tanks, giving it, with regular AP rounds, 258mm of penetration and 440 alpha damage, which is pretty healthy. I mean, 440 alpha... I mean, this gun is shared with the ST-1 and the IS-4, and the tank destroyer version of this gun is also on the Su-122-54, just off the top of my head. So there are a number of tanks that use this gun in one form or another. It's a rather brave Jagdtiger, as he takes a, what, 105mm shell to the face for very little in return. There... my apologies. There, Tanker trades health with the AMX-30. AMX looks like, as I say, has a 90mm gun. Tanker has a bigger gun, so Tanker trades 240 odd of his health for 400 of the AMX's. Nice bit of weak spot knowledge there, knowing that the M103's armor is a bit dubious, and if you aim your shot carefully at the turret cheeks, then you've got a good chance of penetrating. Object 432 there is obviously being educational and demonstrating to everybody the value of a fire extinguisher. Tanker takes another hit there, although I'm not actually quite sure if it did damage, but he managed to nail the M103 for his trouble, so that ended up definitely being worth it. Would be really nice if he could get round. Ooh! if he could get round and put one into that AMX-30 to finish him off, but he actually takes a big hit to the face himself. Was that artillery? I'm thinking it might have been artillery. Although he does manage to put the fire out. Ooh, and nail that Centurion Mark 7. So this is where Tanker is now in a slightly dubious position. He is a potential one-shot for, you know, those kind of tier 9 and above 105 and bigger millimeter guns. So basically, if you're looking at the enemy team, he's a potential one-shot for the FV207 because artillery, the Jagdtiger, the M46 pattern, and the E50. The Tiger II has a 105 gun, but it only does 320 alpha damage. In fact, no, the highest of 320 alpha damage gun can roll for is 400, so he's not a one-shot for that guy, assuming he doesn't get set on fire again, of course. And his fuel tanks are damaged. So that is a possibility. But anyway, so this is a little bit dubious. You have to be a little bit careful here, but nonetheless, so far Tanker has done a good amount of damage, picked up 2 kills, and whereas the friendly team were originally trailing, that E50 is dead, which is a good result. The score lines are now even. Really needed to give that shot just a little bit more lead, because that T-71 is quite a long way away, let's be honest. Can he put a shot into that guy before he gets into cover? Nah, unless he gets respotted the other side of that mountain. Ooh. Sorry about that, you can see that the Manflu is still claiming me a little bit as a victim. T-71 takes a series of very large hits there and just evaporates. So with the T-71 and the E-50 down, that just leaves 4 tanks left on the enemy team. T-49 over there, of course I should have mentioned, if the T-49 got lucky he can also one-shot Tanker with that big old derp gun, but he's dead, so it doesn't really matter. Jagdtiger, Tiger II, and artillery remaining. Jagdtiger may not be able to one-shot Tanker, assuming no ammo rack or fire, but he can certainly put some pain in. I mean, 2 shots from that Tiger II would finish Tanker off, and if it were just a straight-up fight between the two of them, the Tiger would definitely be able to put 2 shots in before Tanker was able to kill him, if, of course, he weren't AFK. As it is, he is AFK, so, what are you going to do? Kind of sucks for the enemy team. There we go. Can Tanker pick up the kill? Oh, leaves him on 19 health. The IS-3 will probably finish him off. Jagdtiger has a good chunk of health left. Can Tanker put a shot in? Oh dear. Flubs the shot. Damn it. Jagdtiger takes him out. Must admit, in that position, I would have been tempted, instead of backing off from the Jagdtiger, to keep going forward and try and get round that lump of rock before the Jagdtiger came round and actually managed to kill him. Maybe he used gold, maybe he didn't, don't know. He might have had a shot at the hull. And if that Jagdtiger did have a shot at the IS-8's hull, it was likely shooting down on it, so it would have negated a lot of the angle and would have just sailed straight through. So, I don't know. I doubt we will ever know if that Jagdtiger was firing gold or not. Anyway, Jagdtiger's the last one left, and he is dead. So, let's go and have a look at the post-battle results. So, that ended up being first class mastery, fire for effect, bruiser, and a high caliber for Tanker there. He did a few points shy of 5,000 damage, 2 kills, or 1,130 base experience points, which puts him at the top of either team, regardless of how you count it. That Jagdtiger who managed to kill him in the end, well, Tanker can take some solace from the fact that that guy only did just about 1,600 damage, which for a Jagdtiger, in that matchmaking, not a good result. Apologies, I'm just taking a drink to keep my throat going. And, well, really it was because that Jagdtiger was just camping there, but there we go. 13 shots fired, 11 hits, 11 pens to pick up that damage count. Most of it was at close range. Damaged 7 vehicles, killed 2 of them, and got 745 assistance damage as well. Standard account, died, but still made a profit of 12,000 credits. So a nicely played game there from Tanker3069 in his IS-8. Here is our second game. This is MajesticSpoon. At the time he was in the QED clan, and he is platooned up with Troyan Panda, who is from QSF. We're here on... I've done that thing where the name of the map's just fallen out of my head. Sand River. I'll get there eventually. And it's a tier 9 game, so once again, top tier, and as with the previous match, this is the IS-8. Now, I know Majestic isn't the biggest fan of this tank, because I platooned up with him for some matches while he was toward the end of this grind. I think he's now unlocked the IS-7, but don't quote me on that, I can't actually remember. But anyway, IS-8, Sand River, what have we got? Well, there's kind of swings and roundabouts here. On the one hand, the IS-8 is mobile enough to get into a fairly aggressive starting location without too much fear of getting shot up on the way in. I mean, he can be over by this ridgeline before anyone's really had a chance to put much damage into him, which is good. On the other hand, the IS-8 is a Soviet tank, and Soviet tanks, generally speaking, are not renowned for their phenomenal gun depression. And Sand River really is one of those maps that... Ooh, that was a lucky shot. It not only hit, but got a high damage roll. 440 is the average damage roll. Majestic rolled for 517. Very nice. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Soviet tanks, generally speaking, don't have fantastic gun depression, and the IS-8 is no exception. Oh, that one almost went in. But you can see here that while Majestic doesn't have great gun depression in this tank, he is using this little rise in front of him to hide his hull, which is pretty poorly armoured, if we're going to be honest. Certainly no match for the gun on a Leopard prototype, pretty much regardless of what gun that guy's actually using, whether he's fully upgraded or not. And he's only showing really his turret armour, and the turret on the IS-8 is still pretty good. Now, I think on paper, the armour on the IS-8 is technically better than the armour on the IS-3, frontal armour that is. Well, I guess that bounce makes up for the shot on that guy before, doesn't it? But the IS-3 is renowned for having very frustrating armour from the from the perspective of someone trying to kill it. But you have to remember that the IS-3 is at tier 8 and the IS-8 is at tier 9, so the guns that you get shooting at you are considerably bigger. Also, I don't believe the IS-8 has been given a HD model yet, and things like that. Anyway, Leopard prototype, do you really want to be sitting there, dude? I don't think you do. Low damage roll, slightly low damage roll, but can't really complain too much. And Leopard prototype gets finished off by artillery. T71 over there, this is a patch 9.9 game, so this is before the patch 9.10 came along and hit the T71 in the face with the ugly spade. Something for which I'm still struggling to forgive Wargaming for. Not sure if I ever will. We shall see. But there's that Russian gun depression coming in. Majestic can't really find the gun depression to shoot that T-54 without coming up with some interesting angling to try and use the slope to get his gun pointing at target, and probably giving the T-54 a penetrating shot on him in return, which is kind of the problem with these tanks with dodgy gun depression. Should really have given that shot a little bit more lead, but I know it's so easy sometimes to not quite give a shot enough lead, and you think, screw it, I have to take the shot because this guy's just disappearing out of my field of view, field of fire. If I don't take the shot now, I never will. So, yeah. T-54 here, working over Majestic's platoon mate in the Bulldog, but he's about to receive a 122mm love package to the side, and ramming speed, Mr. Johnson. Totally worth it. And there's Majestic's first kill. Scoreline is 3-4. Ooh, and that T-28 prototype shot only took his track out, which is a little bit lucky. But, you know, Majestic's not going to push his luck, he's going to get the hell out of Dodge. And he kept his platoon mate alive, which is always a good move. This 110 is on 72 health, and deciding he does not like the look of this tier 9 heavy tank rolling towards him. Hello, Mr. Carnarvon, how are you today? Good luck penetrating the IS-8's turret. No, he's not even bothering. 490 for a damage roll, very nice indeed. The one thing you notice with this tank, and this is in common with pretty much all the Soviet heavy tanks, is the ammo count is rather limited. Majestic is down to 11 rounds of AP. Now on top of that, he's got 3 HE rounds and 7 heat rounds, but nonetheless, nonetheless the ammo count's a bit limited. Sorry for that reaction, that was just the enemy M12 artillery deleting Majestic's platoon mate from the game, which is always a little unfortunate. Anyway, Majestic's had enough of all this faffing around with that ridgeline. He's going to go and kill some people. He gets spotted, has to be a little bit careful that the enemy artillery, and it is a platoon of artillery, they may only be tier 7 in a tier 9 game, but they're still big guns. I think the M12 gets like a 155mm gun off the top of my head. So Majestic does still need to be careful, but Majestic's going to go over and kill them now. There is that Carnarvon over there somewhere, but Majestic decides that his priority needs to be doing something about this T-54 and T-71, who are marauding toward the friendly base. Oh, T-71 jinxed that one. And threatening artillery. Friendly Jagdtiger nukes the T-54, making sure that he is no longer a problem. But the T-71 can still give serious problems to the friendly tanks at base. But remember that Jagdtiger? Yeah. So, Trojan Panda is just stealth rock. Those rocks on Sand River, I mean, Jesus, I've come a cropper on those as well. Trojan is just reminding Majestic that the Carnarvon is only got 200 and something health left. He's a one-shot for this gun. Frankly, Majestic could probably load HE and one-shot the guy, if we're going to be honest. But AP is definitely more reliable in this situation. The Carnarvon isn't on low enough health. Isn't on low enough health for HE to be a reliable kill. So we've got the enemy Carnarvon platoon split up this match, which I found a little curious. Usually if you have a 3-man platoon, you might want to consider taking one tank off somewhere else, because otherwise you can find, especially if you're top tier, you can kind of put all of your eggs in one basket, if you will, and that can leave one flank looking decidedly weak. But regardless of that, I mean, the enemy Carnarvon platoon was not top tier. There were only 2 of them, so I think they'd have probably been better off sticking together. Now, despite the friendly team's best efforts, and Majestic driving around most of the north half of this map already, the friendly team is actually losing 10 kills to 12, and the enemy team have tanks in the base. This is an encounter game, of course, you just have the single base. Down the south there. Ooh, M12 artillery piece. Goodbye. And so, yeah, the friendly team is a little bit on the back foot here, but hopefully Majestic can do something about it. So he's nailed one of these M12s. Can he nail the second one? He does need to not use up too much of his time, because of course the enemy Carnarvon, I think it is, and possibly the T-28 prototype as well, they are capping. No, I think it's just the Carnarvon. They are capping the base. And yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Majestic just bounced on an M12 artillery piece, because screw you. And the M12 puts a nice big HE round into Majestic, taking out his gun, driver, and tracks. Thankfully, Majestic was able to ram the guy, meaning he only needed one more shot to finish him off. And Majestic had most of his health left, having previously only taken a little bit of damage from ramming that T-54 to death, so that could have been a lot worse. Majestic had the health to take that shot to the face. And indeed, he only actually took, well, less than 400 damage for his trouble, something of the order of 380 or something like that. Now, Majestic does get spotted here, and this is, of course, a patch 9.9 game, so this is after they've reworked this map. And there is the Carnarvon. Carnarvon has a very good view range. That shot didn't actually do damage to the Carnarvon, or not HP damage, but it did track the guy, and that was damage, and so that reset the cap. Sorry. And there's the second Carnarvon. They are both still alive. Now, in this sort of situation, this Carnarvon is in a whole world of hurt, as that shell demonstrates. The Carnarvon's turret certainly used to be fairly tough. It got a HD rework a patch or two ago, and the HD attention didn't seem to do its turret armor any good. I mean, the turret on the Carnarvon was all a bit kind of luck-based. If someone had the time to aim at you, you were in trouble. But nonetheless, in that situation, Majestic was easily able to take the guy out, and probably would have done so before the changes anyway. Hello, Mr. Carnarvon. There's the other platoon mate. And I should point out that, you know, the past few kills, Majestic's been all on his lonesome. Just casually driving around, wrecking people's faces. And that's kill number 5. If Majestic can nail this T-28 prototype, that leaves him with a Top Gun, which would be a really nice way to finish this game off. I don't think he was quite in contention for a Kolobanov's. I don't think he was outnumbered by 5-1, but he was certainly outnumbered by 3-1. No, that wasn't, just to answer his platoon mate's question, that wasn't killed with Splash. Majestic had a thin shot on the rear of the Carnarvon. Now, alas, Majestic flubs his shot. T-28 prototype manages to find a shot into Majestic's hull. Now, T-28 prototype does get quite a meaty 120mm gun, so this is a kind of awkward situation. Now, the T-28 prototype's armor's good, but it's not 250mm good. This gun gets 258 average millimeters of penetration, and even that aside, the shot actually landed on what's a relatively weak patch of the T-28 prototype's turret. So if you're looking at the front of the turret of that thing, you have these two sections of flat armor either side of the gun mantlet. And so if you've got a gun with sort of 200 pen and upwards, generally speaking, you can put a shot into those little cheek sections and it will go through. And this gun has, as I said, almost 260mm of penetration, so that's not too difficult at all. Now, Majestic has a HE round here loaded. I'm not quite sure why, to be honest. And indeed, he reloads an armor-piercing round. I mean, the T-28 prototype isn't a one-shot or anything like that. He doesn't need the HE round to hurt the guy. He's got more than enough penetration to just blitz through the T-28's frontal armor. Hell, he can trade shot for shot with this guy and he'll come off the best. Barring anything weird like a fire or, which would be unfortunate, or an ammo rack. But, you know, Majestic does still have his fire extinguisher remaining, so it shouldn't be that bad. Now, the prototype probably has a better reload than Majestic here. I don't actually know the reload on the IS-8, but I know the T-28 prototype does get a good reload. So this could be slightly awkward, but there we go. One shot into the T-28 prototype, but this is now awkward. Having said that, the prototype can't kill him with one more shot, barring something ridiculously lucky, so Majestic just needs to make sure of this shot, and it actually goes into the gun mantlet. Oh dear. Now this is messy. This is very, very messy, but Majestic takes that shot to the front of his turret, loads a heat round just to make sure, puts that heat round through the cheek of the turret, finishes off the T-28 prototype and the game. Sorry about if I got cut off there. I'd forgotten, of course, that was a patch 9.9 replay, and they crash as soon as you get to the end of them, rather than just pausing nicely as you would like them to. So, sorry, it's the first patch 9.9 replay I've done. I completely forgot they did that. Anyway, results from Majestic's game. After that, actually rather close game. He got Ace Tanker, perhaps not hugely surprising, Fire for Effect, Duelist, Bruiser, Spartan, Defender, High Caliber, and Top Gun, so that's a rather nice clutch of awards and medals for him. Finishing at the top of either team, regardless of whether you're looking at experience, damage, kills, whatever, Majestic was happily sitting at the top. Friendly Jagdtiger also had a good game. He was the guy defending the base. Troyan Panda did alright for himself, coming 4th, yes I can count, on the team. On the enemy team there was an AMX-1375 who put in a good amount of damage. And while you might say that T-28 prototype did alright with 2000 damage in a tier 9 game, it's worth bearing in mind that something like 1200 of that was against Majestic right at the end there. Basically, that guy put in 800 damage prior to that final engagement with Majestic. So this is one of those situations where the actual numbers kind of lie to you. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on that T28 prototype because we don't know how his game went. Maybe he got unlucky or whatever, but yeah, maybe not. The fact that he was around the cap circle, I don't know. Make of that what you will. Anyway, 22 shots fired, 16 hits, 11 penetrations for that 3,900 damage. So actually less damage than the previous replay, but this was an ace tanker, due in no small part to the fact that he got more kills. And of course there's other things that go into working out whether or not, working out exactly what experience you're going to get. This is the IS-8, of course. The armour isn't fantastic, certainly not the hull armour. And so despite being top tier in a tier 9 heavy tank, Majestic only actually blocked 800 damage with his armour. Spotted 2 enemy tanks, damage 7, killed 6, got 300 assistance damage, 76 base defense points, and travelled over 4 kilometers in a quote-unquote heavy tank. Now, he made a 12,000 credit profit. That was with a premium account. With a standard account, they've actually made a small loss. That's because half the shots he fired didn't penetrate. Go figure. The one thing I would say, if I was to give any advice about this, is try and be a little bit more careful about how you angle your tank. There was one part where Majestic took a shot from the T28 prototype that penetrated, and I think that penetrated mainly because Majestic was over-angling the side of his tank, so the shot went in more easily than it might otherwise have done. But that's not to take anything away. Nice little game there. And managing to carry it at the end despite being outnumbered by the red team. So I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of games in the tier 9 Soviet heavy tank, the IS-8. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.